So here we have negative 10x to the fourth and 30x to negative 30x to the third. All right. First thing we want to know is that in descending order? Highest exponents first, next one smallest, right? So it's in order, it's the right thing. The next thing to look at is GCF. So 10 and 30, what do they have in common? 10 is the biggest number that will go into both of them. How many x's do they have in common? 3. This one has 4, this one has 3. The most that they could have in common would be 3. That's the most that you could pair up. So the GCF is going to be 10x to the third. Now here's the trick that you need to, it's kind of a rule of thumb. If the leading coefficient, the number that's in the front piece, is negative, when you pull out that GCF, pull that sign with it. Okay, so we're going to pull out a negative 10x to the third. Most people don't have a problem with that part. It's the what's left that some people have some problems with, okay? So what is left? If I pull out 10x to the third out of this.
Junior high teachers, as soon as you have your attendance taken, I need junior high students, 7th and 8th grade, to go to homeroom.
All right. If I pull a 10x to the third out of that, what's left? An x. And is it a positive x or a negative x? Positive, because we pulled the negative out. How many times will 10 go into 30? 3. How many x's are left over? None. Is it a plus or a minus in between? Why is it a plus? Because we pulled the negative out, right? I don't need that much space. There's our factored forms. We look at what's left and see if we can do anything else with it. There's nothing else. X plus 3 is pretty plain. You can't do anything to it. Okay. So GCF, factoring with just a GCF. Those first 5 are that idea. Okay. Let's do number 4 because it's got 3 terms. That's a different. It's the same idea, but it's different kinds. 16b to the fourth minus 32b squared plus 8. We're looking for a GCF first. So go through your checklist. Is it in descending order? Yeah. What do they have in common? 16, 32, and 8. 8 goes into all of them. Do they share a letter? The 8 doesn't. So that messes it up. So you can't pull a letter out because this guy doesn't have one. Okay? So the GCF for this one is just the number 8. What would that leave in the parentheses? 2b to the fourth minus 4b squared plus 1. And we're going to stop right there for this one. It won't. What's left won't factor anyway. Made them that way. Okay. All right. So those first 5, you got 3 other ones to do. It's just a GCF. That's all you're pulling out of those, and then you're done. Okay. Let's go to the next set. Let's just do number 6. We got x squared minus 7x plus 10. Okay. Is that in descending order? Yes. Is there a GCF across all 3 terms? Yes. 1 goes into all of them, but does that help us really? If 1 is GCF? No, it really doesn't. Okay. So the next thing to do is count terms. How many terms are there here? 3. It's a trinomial. So this is that x method that I was talking about. And the way that works, make a big X, and then you take the number that's in front of x squared. What's in front of x squared? 1. 1 times 10 is 10. That number goes right there in the top of the X. What number goes in the bottom of the X? And then the negative 7. Okay. Now, here's what we're looking for. We're looking for numbers that multiply to be positive 10 and add to be negative 7. Multiply to be the number up top, add to be the number in the bottom. Negative 5, negative 2. Doesn't matter what order I put those in there. like that. Now here's the beautiful thing, is because there's a 1 in front of x squared, I can take a shortcut. Y'all remember this from Algebra 1? That you could go straight to x minus 5 and x minus 2. That only happens if there's a 1 in front of the leading term. If there's any other number there, we got to do something else, okay? But if there's a 1 there, then that means, oh, I can go straight here, x minus 5, x minus 2. Okay, so that's a shortcut that we can take, only when there's a 1 in as the leading coefficient. Let's do another one of those just to knock it out. Pick me 1 through 15 there. Whichever one you think looks hardest. Somebody want to volunteer one that you don't want to do? 15? Yeah, I got that 70. It's the biggest number. So, all right, number 15. X squared minus 17x plus 70. Okay. Descending order, check. GCF, 1. It doesn't help us. Okay. So 3 terms, that tells us to do the x method. What goes in the top of the x? 70. Where does that 70 come from? First times last. Don't skip that. It's not always going to be that number. There's another number here. It's different. What goes in the bottom? Negative 17. All right. What multiplies to be positive 70 and adds to be negative 17? Yeah, negative 7, negative 10. This is one of those things I know I say this every time we talk about this in Algebra 1. If you don't know your multiplication tables, you're going to struggle with this. If you know them well, then you're better at this. Okay, so if you're not really great at multiplication tables, go to work. Go to the dollar store, get you some flashcards. Download the app on your phone that does flashcards. There's one that's for free, I'm sure, somewhere out there. Because there's a 1 in front of x squared, I can go with my shortcut, x minus 7, x minus 10. Okay. That's the factored form. Flip it over to the back. Let's just get number 16 there. That looks like a fun one. These are a little tougher. 16 through 25 are a little tougher. 5n squared minus 31n plus 30. Okay. Go through the checklist. Is it in descending order? Yes. Is there a GCF between 5, 31, and 30? No. 5 and 30 have 1, but the 31 messes it up. So with no GCF, do they all share a letter? Not all 3 of them, so we can't pull anything out there. Okay, you're always looking for that first. Then the next thing is, how many terms are there? 3. So that tells us to do that x method. This will be a little harder because it's bigger numbers. What goes in the top? 150. Remember, that comes from 5 times 30. A times c, if you remember, a, x squared plus bx plus c. Standard form for a quadratic. What goes in the bottom? Negative 31. All right. It'll be a little tougher. We got to find something that multiplies to be a positive 150 and adds to be negative 31. If it multiplies to be a positive and adds to be a negative, what do we know about both numbers? They're both going to be negative. What numbers could do that? Negative 6, negative 25. That's great. That would have been one of my first choices because 150, we know 25 goes into that because we think about in terms of quarters. You know, $1.50, you can divide quarters into it easily. So 6 quarters is $1.50. So negative 6 plus negative 25 is negative 31. Now here's the difference in this and the others on the front side. You can't go straight to your factors here. This is where that grouping comes back in. And usually this is when we had some problems in Algebra 1 with this. What you've got to do then is rewrite the problem. I'm going to put the 25 in first. and then the 6n. It does not matter which way you do that. Okay, I'm replacing the negative 31n with my two pieces from my x. Okay, it doesn't matter what order you put them in right here. It will work out at the end the same. Okay, I just put the 25 first because I know 5 and 25 have an easy common factor. And I put the 6 with the 30 because I know 6 and 30 have an easy common factor. Okay, so you've got to rewrite it, replace the middle term with the two pieces from your x, and just keep the letter on them. And then we're going to group that. And the way you group, first two together, what's the GCF of 5n squared and negative 25n? 5n. What's that leave in the parentheses? N minus 5. There you go. Now, the second group, I always just underline it so that I can say it, the one in parentheses or the underline. We got a negative 6n and a positive 30. What do they have in common? 6. Because that's a minus right there, we're going to pull out what? Negative 6. What's left in those parentheses? N. 30 divided by negative 6 would be negative 5. Notice those guys right there match. If they don't match, something went wrong. Okay? Something went wrong if they don't match. Now, final answer then. One of your factors is n minus 5, that matching piece. The other factor is the stuff in front. 5n minus 6. There's the factored form. Definitely a little tougher for these than it is on the front side. Okay. Let's try and pick me one from 17 through 25. Pick one of those. 24. All right. All positives on that one. That's good. We hadn't had one with all positives yet, so that's a good one to pick. All right. Descending order. X squared, x, plain number. We're good. Okay. GCF. 10, 27, 14. Nothing. All right. Next, what do we do? X method. Fairly big number. 140 up top, 27 in the bottom. 20 and 7. 20 times 7 gets us that. As you do more, if you're not good at finding those two numbers real quick, if you're having trouble with that, just start thinking, okay, well, 140 I know is divisible by 2. And then just go from there and find numbers and try. It's just a guess and check kind of idea. It's really all it is. There's, some people are just, they're very familiar with the multiplication table, so they're better at it. You can be better at it too, I promise. All right. So next thing is to do what? Plug these pieces into the middle. So we got 10x squared plus 20x plus 7x plus 14. If you did that the other direction and put 7x first and 20 second, you're going to get the same final answer. Your factoring will look a little bit different. It doesn't matter which way you put those in the middle. As long as you got the right signs from over here, you're good. Okay. Since they're both positive, they're both pluses. What do we do next? Group the first two together, 10x squared and 20x. What's the GCF there? 10x. What do they got? What's left? X plus 2. What's the GCF of that second group? 7. What kind of 7? Plus 7 or minus 7? Plus, because it has a plus in front of it. Whatever sign is right there is going to be in the middle right here. Always. Always, always. Okay. That leaves x plus 2 because 2 times 7 is 14. Final answer. Good job. There's your factored form. I'll do one more out of that set if y'all want to pick one. Or 25. Let's pick one that's not all positives. Let's do one that's mixed up. How about 22? It's got a plus in the middle and a minus on the end. It's small numbers, but would y'all rather do 20 or 22? 22? All right, yeah, that 1 in the middle kind of looks weird. 4k squared plus k minus 3. So descending order, check. GCF, check. There's not one. X method. What goes up top? 4 times -3, which is -12. Good job. What's in the bottom? +1, because that's what's in front of this k right here. It's +1. What numbers do that? Yeah, 4 and -3, or -3 and 4. Doesn't matter which way you do that. All right. Happens to be the same numbers we multiplied before. That doesn't really matter. Okay? As long as it works for the x. The next thing to do is put them in the place of k. To me, it just makes logical sense to put the 4k first. It doesn't matter technically, but it just makes sense to do that. And then the -3k. It just makes sense to do that to me. Again, it doesn't matter if you do that or not. You'll end up being the same answer at the end, but it just makes sense to me to do that. Group. GCF of those. 4k. What's left in the parentheses? A plus 1. GCF of the second group. -3. What's that leave in parentheses? A plus 1. Final answer? Yeah. It doesn't matter which one of these you put first or second. It doesn't matter at all. But it's multiplication, so you can put them in whatever order you want to there. As long as you have those two factors.
How do we get the 4k minus 3?
The 4k minus 3 is the stuff that's in front. One of your factors is going to be the matching piece. That's that guy. The other one is this stuff. That's the 4k minus 3. That's always how it's going to work there. Okay. All right. 26. Get to the easy ones at the end. Or, well, maybe the easy ones. I don't know. K squared minus 9. Descending order, check. GCF. Not 1. How many terms? 2. So that tells us we should be looking for a what? Difference of squares. Is there a minus sign in this problem? Yeah, so that means it probably is a difference of squares. The way you want to do that, when you see that 2-term thing with a minus sign in it, you want to think, okay, can I rewrite this guy as a difference of squares? Well, the first one's easy. What squared is k squared? K, right? What squared gives me 9? 3. If you can rewrite it that way, then the factoring is really easy. 1 is k plus 3. 1 is k minus 3. Works that way every time. Do 29, 16, m squared minus 9. It's got a number there. Is there a GCF between 16 and 9? No. Okay. How many terms? 2. Is there a minus sign in it? Yeah, so that makes you think, okay, it's probably a difference of squares. Let's see if we can rewrite it like that. So we know that the second part's going to be a 3. We've already done 9. We know it's 3 squared. What squared gets me 16m squared? 4m. That's right, 4m. The factors then, they both have 4m in the front, 3 in the back. 4m in the front, 3 in the back. One's plus, one's minus. Differences of squares are some of the easiest ones. You just got to know your square numbers. If you cannot rewrite it as a square, then it can't be done that way. Okay? And it won't factor either way. If it can't be rewritten like this, and it's only 2 terms with a minus sign in the middle, then it won't factor. It's what we would call a prime polynomial. None of these on this sheet are that way. They all work some way. Okay. Let's drop down there to 32. Okay, 32. N squared minus 8n plus 16. All right. Descending order, check. GCF, check. How many terms? 3. Well, we've already done 3 term stuff. What do we do for that? X method. Why is he putting more of those on there? Well, let's figure this one out. Multiply to be positive 16, add to be negative 8. Negative 4, negative 4. Okay. Can we take our shortcut to our factors? Why? When can we do that? Nothing in front of the n squared. Or it's technically it's a 1 there. There's no other number there. So that lets us go to n minus 4, n minus 4. That could also be written like this. Those are both the same thing. What that's called is a perfect square trinomial. The reason it's called a perfect square is because it factors to have the same factor twice. That's what it's called, a perfect square trinomial. But how it works, not any different than the other ones that we did. It's exactly the same stuff. It's no different. You want to do 34 or 35? 35, it's bigger numbers. So yeah. 4x squared minus 20x plus 25. All right, so descending order, we're good. GCF, 4 and 20 have something in common, but the 25 messes that up. So no GCF on that one. And then what method are we using? X method, okay? It's 100 up top and negative 20 on the bottom. What does that? Negative 10, negative 10. Can I go straight to my factors? No. Why not? That 4 in front of x squared makes me have to do the grouping stuff. So I've got to replace that middle term with a negative 10x and another negative 10x. So I'm rewriting it as 4x squared minus 10x minus 10x plus 25. So anytime there's a number in front there, that's on a trinomial, that's what I've got to do. And then I'm grouping. The GCF of these two. 2x. What's it leave in the parentheses? 2x minus 5. What's a negative 10x and a 25 got in common? 5, but what kind of 5 am I pulling out? Negative. Remember that sign right there tells you what to pull out. What kind? Okay, so that's a -5 that I'm pulling out. What's that leave in the parentheses? 2x minus 5. Final factors. Remember, the first one I usually just write the matching one, 2x minus 5. The second one is always the stuff in front, 2x minus 5. Happens to be the same one twice. So you could write it like this. I'm okay with it either way there. Okay. All right. Your job is finish that. That's your work. You're gonna be sitting in homeroom for an hour and a half today. You know, it won't take you 20 minutes probably to do the rest of this. So that's your job today. Tomorrow